I was just reminded of something, and it hit me really hard. Do I truly know that Jesus has overcome the world? Like, do I actually truly live a life that reflects that? Do I believe that with every fibre of my being? Because I just heard someone say that on a podcast, and I was like, hang on a minute, yes. Literally, yes. And I feel like I'd kind of been riddled in fear. Like, even last night, I was kind of up certain points of the night, which I'm learning that realistically, that's opportunity for me to pray. If I have a deep sleeper, and when I wake up, it's just kind of, my mission is kind of to get back to sleep. And so I'm waking up at different points, also because this is a new bed for me, so it's different. And arguably half the size, but anyway, I'm waking up and I was knocked out. Literally, I didn't leave my room till 12. And even then, I truly just felt like half dead. I was reading my word in the morning and just felt on, it's like my brain couldn't even just comprehend. Like, I was just not even thinking of all these things, but I knew that all these things were like kind of subconsciously in there. And just in fear, honestly. Like, I'd even had a mini breakdown before. Like, at the evening before, and just kind of just be here, then, everywhere, which again, at this point is, it's granted. You know, be in a new space, a new place, and just being aware of just different things. But out of all of that, it's like the one thing that I didn't even think to be aware of was that Jesus Christ has overcome the world. He's overcome it. The passage that she read, it was Alias. I listened to Christ Coffee on Ice. I think it's pretty good. I listen, probably more so in and out of episodes. I listen when I can. And it was from John 6, chapter 16, where it gets to the end. And she's like, take heart. For he's overcome the world. He's overcome the evil in it. And you know what? I can put every bit of money I could ever have on the fact that if I'd even thought that, I would not have been half as distressed as I was. Arguably at all. Because even throughout the week, and that's one thing that amazed me. Like, I was even walking my dog at one point, and I was like, God, how am I not stressing right now? How am I not insanely over my head? Not necessarily in fear, but just out of things I need to do, things I hadn't done, just this, that, and the other. And I was like, I promise you I'm not complaining. I'm just absolutely amazed that I am living out and seeing with my own eyes that the peace of God surpasses human understanding. And truly it does. And it's when I take time to actually step out and just think, wow, I am living these promises and I am actively seeing them. Like, what a privilege, what an honor that is. To not only read living, breathing words, but to see them live and breathe out in my life. It is insane and incredibly beautiful. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Because I had taken that time to become aware of it. Which arguably was no time at all. It hit me, I was questioning myself, like, why do I feel this way? It's because God has me safely in his hands. As my sister would say, period, the end. But it is so true. And if I had even thought to think that Jesus Christ has overcome the world, that he's overcome it, that he's foreseen everything that has ever gone on, that does go on, and that will go on in the future, that he's seen it and dealt with it and ordained it, not only to happen, but to be divinely judged by the Lord Most High. How could I forget that? Everything I believe and arguably the peace I experience is based on that fact. Meanwhile, I'm forgetting it and allowing the enemy to feed on my vulnerability by opening the door to fear into doubt, into insecurity, which arguably is, not arguably, it is pride. So I was like, what the heck? I'm once again actually lying down on the floor and I'm like, what the heck? How did I not see that? Because I didn't want to see that. Because arguably seeing that also means acknowledging that God has seen everything that has gone on, that does and that will. So why doesn't he do anything about it? And I've never actually struggled. I have. More so before I actually became serious about pursuing God. But in that space, like, I've never actually struggled with the idea of, if God really exists, like, why is all this evil going on and stuff? And honestly, that's probably because I'm extremely diplomatic, like sometimes annoyingly diplomatic, but at the same time also very black and white. Like, if I know something or I've seen something, you cannot convince me otherwise, or you'd have a very hard time trying. I can be quite stubborn, not even deliberately, but I never, I know that God is holy, righteous, and blameless. End of. Need I say more? No, because he doesn't. There's nothing else to that. So if the God that I serve is holy, and if he is righteous, and if he is blameless, then who am I to question his ways? Now, does that mean we can't? No. We would not have the book of Psalms if that was not the case. I would not have these floor rants if that was not the case. Or just these random thoughts that I have throughout the day. Which arguably isn't random. I mean, oftentimes it's the Holy Spirit just strengthening my faith. Almost being like, okay, little recap. What do we know and why? Why do you believe it? Not that God has, hands out any pop quizzes or anything. But you catch my drift, hopefully. I've never really had any problem with that. But in acknowledging that Jesus has overcome the world, we've got to acknowledge that even these things that cause us discomfort, that cause us pain, that create fear, has a perfect place in history. Because there is a time and a purpose to everything under the heaven. No, there's a time and a season to every purpose under the heaven. I mean, you would never think that was my screensaver for how long? But Ecclesiastes 3:8, check that out, I think it's 3:8. Yeah, check it out. Because there is a time and a purpose to everything. Do you think that whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever it is that you're going through, Jesus hasn't dealt with it and that he hasn't seen it? Of course he hasn't. It's like life is this book on a shelf, and our own personal life is just a book on a shelf. And we're reading it. Meanwhile, Jesus has picked it up, written it, read it, and put it back. He knows. And I think that's the bit that I struggle with. That's the part that gets me. In remembering the fact that he knows. Remembering the fact that he's got it. That it's not unknown to him. He knows it, and his promises still stand true. So what am I going to do with that? Am I going to waste my time? Because it doesn't add to our life. Jesus says that. Just worrying about these things at any time, does it even add a second to our lives? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it sounds harsh, but even when I catch myself worrying or fearing something, I'm like, heck to the no, get out of here. I don't want you here. Leave. Find the exit and don't come back. I just take it so seriously. It doesn't even add a minute. So why am I going to deprive multiple minutes from myself over something I can't change, I can't solve, and ultimately I can't comprehend? when instead I can shift my gaze. It may take effort, some days more than others, but to actively shift my gaze and be like, right, let's do the maths here. You've known it, you've seen it, you've written it, you've done it. Is technically God's outside our timeline, like He has done. He's probably seen it. He's seen the outcome before we've got there. How about I just trust in that fact? If I can believe in all the other promises of God, this one should be no different. So let me set my eyes on the things above. And arguably when I give in to fear at times, that's just my wake-up call that my eyes weren't set on things above, that my priorities weren't in the right place. In that we just need to pick back up, step up, and get our game on. Because God doesn't shame us. He tells us these things because He's aware that we'll do it. Fear is a liar. Joshua 1:9. Fear is just so pointless. But why does God tell us that? Because He knows that we'll fear. Does He shame us for that? No. He just gives us a bunch of reminders to not do it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Why does He tell us that? Well, why does Paul write that? Because that's what Paul says. He writes it because He's aware that we try to do things on our own strength. And when we run out, it gets pretty dark pretty quick. But let's remind ourselves of this because it's so crucial and it's so necessary to just truly have these in our hearts, in our minds. Like currently I'm in my new uni accommodation and I was blessed with beautiful gifts from Nicole, our youth pastor, from the youth team, and she stuck on a post-it note with scriptures that applied to each of the things that she gave me, which I thought was absolutely incredible. I so want to use that. And originally I was going to keep them on the things, but as I was putting the things that she got me away, I was like, you know what? Let's take these post-it notes and stick them up other places. So I've put them on the cupboard doors, on the wardrobe. I've put them on the toilet door. I've put them on the toilet / bathroom / everything door, and the main door. So I could see them, and I've got my blanket with little affirmations, and I've got a Bible on table and these little cards, these little cute decorated cards, which will go on the pin board when I get pins. I have to borrow them off a flatmate or something. But just do everything that you can to truly eat, sleep, and breathe it. Think about it. If we're hungry, we wouldn't not eat food. Arguably, that's triggery. And I know personally that is not always how that goes. But let's just stick to biology right now. Especially way back when, you have that hunger instinct, you're going to go and hunt or forage for what it is that you need so you can fuel your body with that. Even today, you get a little inkling, you're going to go find it. Especially, as a woman, when you hit different parts, throughout the month, where your hormones are kind of needing different things. You're truly gonna run as fast as you can to the nearest shop to try and do something about that. Like, you're gonna do something, is what I'm trying to say. So why not do the same? Like, if we have this inkling, because think about it this way, if we're having this fear creep up, that's just our hunger for God's comfort to kick in. That's our spirit's hunger pain going, okay, we need to be filled in this area right now. If we're a bit stressed out, if we're a bit uncertain, if we're angry, a bit sad, or, maybe we're leaning too much into other certain emotions than others. Whatever it is, that's the spirit going, okay, we need to fill this with God. Because God designed, our emotions don't oppose God, they reflect them. Especially as Christians, and when the Holy Spirit comes to indwell us once we've truly received the truth of Christ. Like, that conviction gives us an awareness that how we have righteous anger. Being angry isn't a sin, but the actions that are born out of anger are. We can have a righteous anger. A good example between the two is when Jesus goes into the temple and he flips the tables. Rightfully so, because full on disregarding that this is the dwelling place of God. And they're using it as like a merchant's house. What the heck? But then we have Peter, when where like the chief priests and Pharisees and everybody are coming to take Jesus away before he gets crucified. He goes and slices off someone's ear. There is a massive difference between the two. We can have that. We can be sad. Again, Psalms. David mourned through those. Heck, even outside of Psalms, like when we see in 1 Samuel, when Hannah is just, she is so riddled with grief that Eli thinks that she is drunk and tells her to leave the wine behind. Like, lady, sober up. Meanwhile, she's as sober as she can get, but it's just so deep in grief. Like, these things are okay, but let it be a reminder of our dependence for God. What are we missing? What do we need right now? Do we need words of comfort? Do we need words of reassurance? Do we need, do we need a little pep talk, a little something to get us to step up, to remind us of our responsibility, the responsibility that we have, and the accountability to remind ourselves of what we believe and to make others just as much aware. Like, what is it? Because it's a perfect opportunity for that. And even in this moment, as I lie down on the floor, kind of shivering because my window's a little bit open and my body's probably still drying from the bits of rain because I've been out in the rain a little bit today. As I lie down here, what is it that I need right now? And no matter what, the answer is always going to be more of God. Because on this side of heaven, there's always going to be a yearning. And there's always going to be a deficit. But the good news is that in Jesus we are always full, lacking nothing, abounding in all things good, all things holy, all things righteous, all things life. Because the flesh is wasting away day by day. But in equal measure, the spirit is being renewed. So how does that lead us to respond? Sticking where we're at? Or doing all that we can to remind ourselves of how close we are to the Father at all times and what that means for the life that we live? What it means for what we think, for what we feel. To be reminded of the hope that we have and to walk out in accordance to the truth that we believe. Because if we don't think it's true, then that's fine. We have free will and we will be accountable to that. Just as much as we will be accountable as to what we do with the knowledge that we have now. Inspired by the word that we read, the things we listen to and watch and say. I always like to argue is all the things that we don't do, things we don't listen to and don't watch and don't say. Let's ask ourselves why. And when we don't know, let's kill that confusion with the sword of truth. That we have access to. The the same sword that cuts through bone and marrow, the same sword that comes out of the mouth of the Son of Man, and the same sword that protects us from evil and seals our hearts with, once again, the knowledge of all things good, all things holy, and all things righteous. The reminder that only God is all three of those, all the time, no matter what. And that we'll always fall short of that. But He truly is our fill. He truly is everything we need. In everything we have.